Thank you so much, Vikram. Now please welcome Mathew Cusack. He's entrepreneur in residence at the Severino Center at Rensselaer.
Thank you for being here. I'm keenly aware that I'm the last person standing between you and a break, so I'll make it brief. This was an incredible group to have the privilege to be in front of. It's not often that you get to joke about family, politics, religion, and cover a serious topic at the same time. I wanted to open it up to questions. James started the process by telling you how RPI envisions the evolution of how they're going to help companies grow. I wanted to open it up to you to ask us questions about what do you think about what you've seen so far. You're at stage 5. There's 2 stages left. And then I'll open it up to myself or the panel to answer. Go ahead.
This is going to show that I don't know anything about this, but whatever type of investors you are, angel investors or cap, is the end goal to sell the company? So for someone who's investing, that's not the thought. Okay, this entrepreneur is eventually going to sell this company, and we're going to get something from it. That's not the case? It's, okay.
Does anybody want to? I'll say that this is called an exit strategy, and everybody who starts, we have this vision of what we're going to build, and then somebody comes along and tells us, I don't know if you guys have had the same experience, somebody says, well, you're not going to be here forever. So how do you want to exit? Did you guys have any insight on it? Go ahead.
Yeah, the most successful startup I ran with a partner, we raised money from venture capitalists. And if venture capitalists invest in your business, they expect an exit strategy. For us, it turned out that we got halfway down the road. My partner and I wanted to keep running the business. We thought it had a lot of growth left. They wanted out, so we were able to bring in a private equity firm, which bought their share out, but we were able to keep running the business and keep growing it. But at the end of the day, if you're bringing in outside money, you're pretty much committing that at some point you're either going to go public or you're probably going to sell the business, so you're going to have some sort of an exit. Businesses that if you raise your own money, if you want to run it as your own business, people call it lifestyle businesses, they call it a lot of things. It's not a fair way to put it, but if you want a business that you're just going to run to generate cash, you might do that with the right angel investors and the right private investors, but venture capital firms are going to look for an exit, whether it's public or a sale of the business.
Yeah, this is for Paul. You talked about crowdsourcing. What about the intellectual property aspect of letting your idea out there and trying to protect that too?
I took that route and protected my idea. Sometimes it might not be worth it because technology is moving so quickly. The thing is, when you do try to protect your idea and you talk to a patent attorney, the fees add up very quickly, and it kind of, my fees went, I think, close to like $10,000. So they add up quickly. If you're trying to raise some money on crowdfunding, it kind of defeats that purpose if you're trying to save up for it. What I would do though is look for somebody that can provide you, IP services and file a provisional, what they call provisional, which is kind of like a placeholder, a temporary, which would save it's like, hey, I have an idea, I don't know what it is yet, I need to raise some money for it. That gives you a 1-year head start. So once you do get the money, after you get a successful seed round, then you can go and to file an official patent. And I suggest that's probably the best route to take.
I'll add 2 cents to that. In my company, we've got a patent portfolio of like 15, 17 patents. So patents are absolutely critical to what we're doing. For those of you with new ideas, I would suggest you do a lot of searching. You can go to USPTO and see if there are ideas like yours out there. See, kind of do your initial flush, but I think the idea of getting a provisional filed and begin to protect it is an important, relatively inexpensive first step. So definitely worth trying to protect it and then you can decide after the fact whether it's worth continuing to invest in that initial investment.
Excuse me?
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry. On the patent discussion, and I'm not sure if it was touched on earlier, but I learned in a company probably in the last decade that the patent position is only as strong as your willingness to defend it. The patent is a disclosure on how to do it. And I had the privilege of working with a very gifted team that worked around the IP issues. So think about that also on the patent issue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, some of the presenters said that they really needed the business plan, business model, and others said focus on the planning, not the plan. And it seems very situational. I was wondering if there's like a set, almost algorithm for how to go about different ideas depending on how, like what you want to get done. I was wondering if there's any insight on like the differences between those.
Yeah, so I think it is situational. It's based on context, but not having a business plan to raise money is different than not running your business off a plan. Let's be clear, right? So every year, my management team and I, we sit down in December, start the planning process, kick off the following year with a plan. But that's a yearly plan. That's within a time scope that's reasonable to assess. What typically happens early in the life of a company is you have no data. You have no information. You know nothing about the market. You haven't talked to customers. So to build like a 3 to 5 year projection and plan is the type of plan that I refer to when I say don't bother. It typically, falls on deaf ears if you do present it and you show up. You want your financial statements, your pro formas and stuff like that, but to show up with an idea of how your business is going to look in 3 to 5 years usually isn't something that anybody cares about because it's unrealistic. So you should, I think in my opinion, you should always manage your business from a plan, but when you're raising money, get out of the 3 to 5 year weeds because it's a waste of time.
I was going to suggest in my talk, the rule generally is if you're raising equity, you can get away with just a presentation. If you're raising debt or going to some sort of formal financial institution, you need to have a full written business plan. And the only business plans I write now are when they're a component of a grant. Mostly it's because writing prose, your business changes so quickly that if you actually write it in words, it can take forever to have to edit it. All you need is a good pitch deck. Now don't think that you're going to get away with thinking less about your business by just putting together a presentation than putting together a written plan. An enormous amount of thinking goes into each slide. So that's kind of the rule, but I want to follow it up with a question. Somebody recently said that the only way to get this region to be really entrepreneurial is if more people will stop wearing suits and blue blazers. Does anyone want to comment on that?
You'll know we almost had a collision. This industry is a contact sport, though. Really, you have to go out, and it kind of addresses your question about the business plan. The business plan makes you a subject matter expert, but you don't have a business until you have recurring revenues, and oftentimes that's from attaching yourself to a couple key clients, and you're going to morph your product to the client's requirements. So that's what this conference is all about, is pivoting to the demands of your clients.
Yeah, just one other comment. I think you're right. Just one other comment. I heard there's some professors at the Stanford Business School who are teaching a course on entrepreneurship called Lean Launchpad, and their definition of a startup is an organization looking for a business model. So I don't see how you can do a business plan without a business model. So yeah, you need something to raise money, but I think slides are going to be it because at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to pivot and change a few times. Most ventures do before you're up and running.
Yeah, question for Eric. When, in terms of raising money with strategic partners, how do you think about the issue of conflict of interest with other customers? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's actually something we spend a lot of time thinking about. And it definitely affects the early stage of the partners you pick, the strategy you pick. I mean, to the question of exits and is it part of the plan, you bet it is. Wasn't part of my first plan, right? I've done this 3 times. So exit, once you go through one exit and it works out okay, you become addicted to the exit. I'll just say that. So yeah, it's a tightrope walk that you have. It's a fine line on who you pick to partner with and who you leave open right, to go talk to about the exit strategy. Because you've got to make sure that your strategic partners bring value but don't block exit value. So it is something you have to think through. You have to know the marketplace. You have to be thinking about your strategy constantly.
Yeah, my name is Steve LaPointe for Rapid Application Developers. And Matthew, I just wanted to respond to you. At 1:30 this morning, I registered for this event, okay? And just what I've learned, just listen to all these snippets, you made me realize where I'm at in my business process. I don't need investors, okay? I put in a development team. In the last 11 months, we generated $3.2 million with a 24% margin, but it's not what I want to do. I'm trying to build a product, so I had to generate revenue. So I'm taking my subject matter expertise, generating the revenue so we could fund ourselves. I just realized that today, just listening to you guys. So our next step is to build a facility, probably, to hire the people to build the product because we're self-funding ourselves. Thank you for today.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers.